Good morning, everyone, and those who just joined. Welcome to the cubesys panel discussion series. The area we'll be covering today would be evolving with AI, scaling Copilot, and building a smarter business. Now, my name's Astha. I'm the marketing and growth lead at cubesys, and I'm so happy to be joined here by a wonderful panel of experts who are actively working on shaping the future of AI adoption in Australia. Now, before we dive in, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the Gadigal land on which we meet today and pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Now, today's session is being recorded, and we encourage you to use the chat window for any questions that you have. Even during the session, please jot any questions that you have. And me and my co-panelists are here to provide you with an answer. And at the end of the session, we'll also aim to be sharing the video and the content and the presentation and all that with you. Now, it's been a really cool journey for us at cubesys. We've started this AI/Copilot discussion with a few sessions, and we made it a whole series. And today is the final one. So today brings the series to an end, but a most exciting conversation to start. So with further ado, I'm going to start with having our co-panelists do a brief introduction. So let's start with Karim.
Yeah, thank you, Astha. My name is Karim, and I am the Sydney ambassador for the AI Community Learning Program, which is an online community of more than 3,000 participants over 60 plus locations worldwide. And we do a lot of AI, hands-on AI challenges and sprints, and from people from across industries and roles and positions. So it's not just one particular product, but multiple products, and we get to see live the progression of people. And it's all free and it's all online. And we are doing localized trainings in different parts of the world, including Sydney.
That sounds brilliant, Karim. That sounds like a really forward-thinking community you're a part of. Margaux, do you want to go next?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome, thank you. So amazing to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm Margaux, and I'm a sales specialist for pilots and agents within Microsoft Elevate, which is actually a part of Microsoft, which is looking after the non-for-profit sector as well as the education K-12. And I'm especially looking after our non-for-profit customers within Microsoft Elevate.
Brilliant. Now, Chris, you'll walk us through the latest adoption rates across Australia and some fascinating data. So I'm going to hand over the session to you, and while you introduce yourself and begin. Thank you.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Hales. I'm the Cloud Technology Strategist here at cubesys. It's a very unique, very different style role for me. I'm very much a very technical background, but have shifted my focus into more of the forward thinking and more of the strategy around technology and its adoption, which is one of the reasons why I'm quite heavily being leveraged and utilized inside the AI era of the current kind of time frame and kind of time set. And it's interesting to see that AI adoption has really started to take off again. You kind of get that early phase of high scale adoption for early adoptions. And then what tends to happen is it starts to stabilize a little bit before it then starts to then go through a second phase of adoption growth. So this is some interesting statistics that we were provided by Dicker Data and Microsoft that was purely around licensing, but it's going to show, I guess, that that drive for adoption, right, and that increase of adoption inside our current states. Now, I know there's some states missing. There was some data that isn't available, but as you can see here, some pretty stable growth in AI adoption in the major states, and I think it's a very clear indication of a willingness and desire to adopt AI. I think the other thing was in our previous sessions, we did a brief poll to kind of understand where people were in their journey. And we very clearly identified that there's a lot of companies out there still in that early adoption phase, haven't quite reached adoption on scale yet, and maybe are still piloting it within a technology group or within a small subset of their user base, but are still looking to plan ahead and planning forward to making sure that they meet certain security requirements, certain governance requirements before they then start their broadening of adoption. Interesting kind of landscape inside that space. And Margaux, being from Microsoft, and obviously this is a Forrester's report that was commissioned by Microsoft, but also it kind of talks to some of that real, I guess, adoption planning, not only just in the fundraising and some of the not-for-profit customers, but also that technology decrease that's occurring because of AI. Now, I know everyone's, there's a lot of questions and comments that I see a lot around LinkedIn around some of the anxiety around AI adoption that may come from our team, but also the increasing staff retention is not something that's very well covered. So Margaux, do you want to just briefly touch on the key points here for our audience?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for bringing it. And indeed, what I love with that study is that it's an external one. So it's not Microsoft doing that one, but Forrester. And I think it's really valuable indeed to see, because we had a lot of non-for-profit leaders that have been interviewed, and also a lot of telemetry data to create that study by Forrester. And there's one of the feedback that you just mentioned about the resource constraints that are really something that is a top of mind topic in the non-for-profit sector. And what AI and Copilot is doing there is really like to helping moving beyond the resource constraints and delivering the growth strategy actually while maintaining the staff levels. So that's really good, and that's indeed helping like for the operational efficiency of the organizations, but also for the staff retention, which is great. Just because like when you spend less time on mundane work and more on meaningful tasks, obviously like the job satisfaction and the retention goes up. So indeed that's one of the key benefits that are really good. And then when we look after the other different numbers here, we can see that for our non-for-profits, over 3 years, you can increase your fundraising outputs of 20%. Just because, like when you start using Copilot, you understand and you see that during your day, you're going to use Copilot in many different processes that you would normally do without it. And so you have like use cases that are being defined. And for example, like Copilot can help you like reaching more donor, because you're going to maybe personalize more your communication with Copilot, and then running more effective campaigns because you had like the data analyzed by the analyst agent. So it's just a lot of different processes that makes that the impact can be really awesome. Decreasing technology costs, I think, is also really important and really interesting here, because we talk about a drop of 50%, because you can first consolidate tool, but also automate the task. And indeed, like you can build on what you already have, but making it like more easy to use, or make the informations more accessible to the users. So that's definitely key here. And the last one is indeed the operational efficiency that I think we've been covering already, but it's really about like the fact that we are all very busy, and we all would love to have more time. And so when you can just like spend less time in meetings, less time searching for information, and less time creating content, and that you have Copilot to help you there, you definitely gain a lot of time. And so here up to 25% according to Forrester. So this is definitely something that we see in our non-for-profit organizations, and that's why they love Copilot actually.
Mm. And I think that operational efficiency is a really important one. Obviously, there's a lot of good use cases for Copilot and M365 agents, specifically that's going to improve that operational efficiency. I know that we talk about anxiety through adoption, right? And the human element of change is always a difficult one. But I think also the concept of providing operational efficiency can be achieved through things like M365 chat agents that are maybe governed or controlled towards a particular set of contextual information boundary. A pure example of that, right, for everyone's benefit. So cubesys obviously being a significant adoption of AI and Copilot in particular, we've created multiple agents inside our chat for Copilot, one of them specific to change control. So instead of the consultants and engineers having to write change controls for our customers manually and having to think of the risks and think of the impacts and think of how they can communicate this, they're giving the context of the change requirements to the bot, and the bot's then providing all of that information back to them, making them a far more effective and efficient to going from requirement of change to change submission, and allowing that team to be able to be very quickly able to populate that change request and put that into the system ready for review and approval. But just one of the very small operational benefits and uplifts that we've seen inside the organization. I think the other side of that is, being able to produce an agent that has that contextual boundary, right, of information. Also, the concept of how easy it is to establish those agents. Obviously, if you have more advanced requirements or custom or bespoke kind of data sources, then yes, there are other agent types that you can look at. Obviously, with Copilot and Copilot Studio, you can leverage more than just the M365 agents. You can then integrate Copilot into a unique data source. It might be a SQL database that you've customized from your CRM or from a marketing campaign or whatever your use case of data is. So Copilot Studio is there to do a more deeper integration into custom data sets. Those M365 Copilot agents are more about leveraging that graph API and making sure that the agent is within the boundaries and context of the individual user and their access to the M365 landscape. So you can still build your own agents on top of that, but that Copilot level is more, that Copilot Studio is more about providing that deeper integration into more custom environments, custom integrations. And there's also obviously the Dynamics agents as well, right? So if you've got a CRM solution on Dynamics and you're leveraging Dynamics for that, there are even custom and bespoke apps designed specifically for Dynamics 365. I think it's one of those unique kind of challenges where we might have a whole lot of different M365 agents out there doing multiple things. We had a colleague of mine recently having a conversation with Lifeline, who was a part of our previous session, who was also explaining that there was a need for, as they take on their adoption journey, their need for expanding the use case of those M365 agents. So now they're leveraging things like an M365 agent for HR policy, right? Again, good, clear information boundary and good contextual boundary, which is then allowing them to open up that agent to the rest of the business as they go through their adoption journey. They're still quite early in their adoption, but they're very closely looking at doing more and more. But they're also going to focus on that Copilot Studio phase because they've got a lot more deeper, richer data sets that are custom inside their line of business applications. So I think it's interesting. Karim, maybe from your angle, I know that the program is broad in its education of Copilot and AI in general, but just a personal note from you, what's one thing that you've used Copilot for in, like, say, the last 7 days that's probably made you more efficient at something?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm just like you. I'm very technical, and I do a lot of support in SCCM. I used M365 to create my own agent, not necessarily from Copilot Studio, but directly from the M365 graph part, and created a agent for help to provide SCCM support. And it made the research a lot easier because, as you know, you can put the sources, and so I have sources from different places, whether it's from the internet or from internal library. And rather than jumping from one source to another, I just ask the question, it does all the research for me and comes back with a much better response than I would, and it would be a lot more quicker, obviously.
Cool. And I think that's just it, right? There's so many different unique, bespoke kind of use cases that we can leverage AI for. You talk a lot about, obviously, one of your functions around supporting SCCM. And I guess inside the program, beyond that, I think people are leveraging different AIs for different reasons, right? Some people are leveraging, the ChatGPTs, the Claudes, the other AIs because they've got unique use cases in specifics. Obviously, cubesys is being very Microsoft focused. We're a Microsoft partner, but we've gone through the journey of adopting M365 Copilot quite significantly, and I think it's interesting to see how that plays out in the rest of the environment, right, and the rest of the people. I think that there is an element of human. Astha, maybe I can leverage you a little bit here to talk about some of the behavioral changes that we had to go through here at cubesys, and also leveraging some of your experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not just technology, and it's not just agents and the black box. It's I think 70% humans. I'm just giving it a number. So talking about AI, right? There are three things that happen when you adopt AI. And those three things are either a human skills are going to be augmented, so there'll be augmentation. The skills will be added, so there'll be an addition of skills, or there'll be automation. So the three A's, right? I always talk about them. So thinking of those three A's, what fears or what biases do we see in the teams within the businesses, right? So the fear of replacement, for example, fear of uncontrollably growing in some areas of the business, the fears of machine like outrunning us in some ways, or privacy. That's a big one, right? Privacy, security, data, all of that is a big one that senior leaders have a bigger concern about. There is misinformation, right? Within cubesys, we've seen so many examples of finding some information on an agent, and the agent going and looking at all of our files within SharePoint and bringing something from 5 years ago saying that John Smith was a CFO of cubesys, and our CEO Paul Heaton went like, well, I don't know a John Smith, where did this come from? And so again, it helps asking the question with your AI agent as to why and where this answer came from, gets us past that element of concern and fear. The last one I want to talk about is bias. So the element of equity, diversity, unfair treatment, and all that comes into this one, right? And that's a tricky one, and that's the one that a lot of leaders will have to navigate through over time. But we've had an exciting pivot. So we started with the, as spoken in the last panel discussion as well, we started with the element of chaos. So it was a lot of information being bombarded by the senior leadership to the rest of the team, and that chaos slowly became part of our DNA. So that chaos then became organized, and we have started different initiatives within cubesys. One of those I really like is the prompt challenge of the week, and so forth. So we've got so many of these initiatives wherein there are competitions, there are sessions on a Thursday where people talk about their best AI usage, or what's their best prompt. There's a winner, they get a dollar amount. It's just been a fun journey, and I think the human element is a big one to navigate around, Chris.
And I think it's interesting, right? Obviously, Karim, in the program, and I guess obviously you've just finished a master's inside AI from which university was it? It was Sydney, was it?
UTS, was it?
UTS?
Yes, University of Technology, Sydney, yes.
and I think, there is a lot of fear and anxiety around. I think that replacement one is I think there's a lot of anxiety around replacement, which I think people need to see that it's not replacement, it's about improving efficiency. And allowing, I think, Margaux, when you and I spoke earlier this week, we talked about the concept of the fact that it's not about being replaced, it's about allowing you to do more with the time that you do have available, right? And achieving a higher output and a higher, I guess, leveraging technology to make your job easier, to make sure that you're focused on bigger problems by taking away the small problems with AI. I want to open this up a little bit between the 3 or 4 of us here to kind of discuss that and go, maybe Karim, you first, around if you were to take maybe 2 of those, I guess, fears or anxieties that Astha has listed. Do you want to maybe just talk to maybe 1 or 2 of them?
Well, the one that I would like to speak about is the replacement by AI. People are like, oh, will the agent take my job one day? One of the things that not only that I've seen through the community program, but also what I've seen through the masters is that, people in the community program, people are overcoming that fear by actually having hands-on experience. And they're like, well, wait a minute, it's not actually going to take my job because and I know more about I'm more of a domain expert on this than the agent. And it's more like the agent is helping me, but the agent needs me. And from the academic perspective, one of the things that we saw was that companies need to they need to not replace the human, but actually find how to use the agent in those lower kind of roles or processes or services, and then elevate and, as Astha said, the 3 A's to augment the employee or the person. So the fear of replacement is kind of a like people don't really know enough. They need to actually put their hands into the AI and try different agents, try different tools, and the more they get comfortable with this, the less that fear, the more that fear goes away. And the other one that I would like to the privacy concerns is that there's the AI needs data. They say your AI is just as good as your data. That touches us also into a little bit in terms of bias, right? If you don't have enough diverse data, then your data, your AI agent, you're gonna start hallucinating and giving you wrong answers, just like Astha said. Who's the CFO from 5 years ago at cubesys? It's completely wrong. But the privacy concerns is that you need to make sure that like AI powered monitoring, creates the sense of being watched all the time, right? People are scared. They're like, is it watching what I'm doing online? Also, the AI systems, they depend vastly on vast amounts of personal data. You need to make sure that you are compliant with privacy policies, and so there are a lot of people. Like, those are the 2 ones I wanted to touch on: replacement of AI and privacy concerns. Obviously, there's the uncontrolled AI, as Astha said. There's misinformation, there's bias. So these are things that organizations have to navigate through and make sure that they are not only compliant but also overcome, again, the anxiety that people may have by giving them little micro steps, if you will, to do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, regularly, and to overcome that fear.
And the empowerment is real. The roles that used to exist before were way different to what they are now. So every single employee in the business gets empowerment. They get more time, they get more bandwidth, they get more energy, and that then gets streamlined towards more creative tasks, more creative thinking, more out-of-the-box solutionizing, and making you more human than you ever were. So it's more, you're more human than you were before, because you're not doing those repetitive automated tasks. So I just find this amazing, and there's never been a better time.
Yeah, no,
That's right. That's right. If anything, it gives you actually more time to be creative, more time to think, rather, like you said, than doing automated tasks and repetitive tasks.
Sorry, Margaux, you were going to say
Margaux,
something.
you were saying something. Yep.
Yeah, I was about also to build on what you just, Karim and Astha just said. I think that's very interesting. And when we look at the numbers, like 80% of the global workforce, and that's the same for Australia and New Zealand, is saying that they don't have enough time or energy to do what they need to do in the day. And at the same time, you have leaders that ask for always more productivity. So it's really that gap of workforce that can be fulfilled by AI, automating what you don't want to do actually. And that's where I think it's very important to understand like where is AI good at and where it's not. And what you will understand is that it's probably good at doing the things that you don't like to do. And you will understand also where is actually your value, what are the tasks that matters the most, where you really need to be the leader of what you do. And then you just become actually an AI leader, being yourself and managing whether your different agents that you've been creating for yourself or just Copilot itself. But yeah, then you're the boss.
I think we've all
And
touched on. Sorry, Astha, go ahead.
different use cases for different departments, right? So within cubesys, for example, our director of delivery, Ian, is trying out so many things to do with operational efficiency and payroll and employee organization, as well as marketing and sales have their own way of sort of using those use cases for themselves. So we've got our own cubesys agent called QB. I love talking about QB because that's the name we came up, to develop that agent and make the most of it. So it's got all the information that exists within the cubesys SharePoint ecosystem, and that's how we leverage that. So I feel like that scale, the driving human change at scale, is limitless if used correctly.
And I think that's a really good point. If used correctly, right? It can be a sensitive topic, right? And I think AI adoption in its current form, and when we go to look at adopting on scale, it's about that behavioral change that we need to assist with as AI leaders and as technology. And as technology, it's often the business that look to us to go, how do we implement this? How do we leverage this at scale? And I think there's plenty of challenges around that, which we've discussed in great detail in our first two discussion series the two previous sessions in this discussion series. But I think we've all touched a little bit on that, driving that human change at scale by talking through that augmentation, that the component of it's only going to take away the mundane tasks to allow you to be more creative, to be more focused on bigger problems. And I think that's where a lot of the adoption that we're seeing today is really focused on. It's really focused on, let's get rid of the mundane tasks. Let's make sure that we leverage AI to take some of that mental load away from us so that we're not thinking about that, and allow us to expand our thinking in that more creative way in the bigger problems. And I think it comes down to how you do that. And I think a big part of how you do that is by building engagement with champions, by enabling, in larger organizations, obviously cubesys is a 30-person organization. So that's only, 2 or 3 different business units, right? When we think of it on a scale. But in a larger organization, that's about getting that engagement. That's about creating that focus around what else, how else can the business leverage it? And I think it's interesting that we all talk about, inside cubesys, we've created an AI champions. We've got 4 AI champions for 30 people. That's maybe a little bit high, but it's 4 people, and they come from different areas of the business where they look at some very specific use cases within their side of the business. Whether it's developers, we've got some in-house developing teams. Whether it's our professional services delivery team, whether it's our managed services delivery team, they're all looking at how they can best leverage AI to take away those mundane tasks and that augmentation piece, as well as Astha and her team around, creating and providing content to the broader, this particular webinar is a brainchild of her leveraging AI to make sure that the message gets out there. So it's a huge thing around how we use champions inside our organization as well. And I know that this, you could look at, agility working groups, more of an agile approach. And Karim, I know that you and I have talked about that on a few different occasions, where it's more about that train the trainer style approach in some instances, or where it's more about showcasing adoption inside the business to then unleash it to more of a chaos theory of maybe something more like what cubesys did. So you can do it in a couple of different ways, but Karim, maybe from your background inside the community and the masters around, without going in, I think AWG in its own right is a huge topic, right? So I think,
but yeah, without going too much into the details, there are many different methods. One of them that you touched on is agility working groups. Now, the thing that's really great about agility working groups is that it applies not just to companies, but even communities, because people don't know each other, but they help each other. Right. And we've seen this with the community learning program. People from the US are talking to people in the UK, to people in France and Japan. They don't know each other, but they do help each other in whatever project they're working on together. There's one project that needs to be accomplished by a certain deadline, and they help one another. And the same thing internally in a business, you have, where you have the champions. The information needs to be contained within the business, but you have your you have your group for a specific project, and then you have like 2 or 3 people who are dedicated to the project, but then you bring 1 or 2 people from different departments to coach and guide them towards the right approach, the goal that they're trying to achieve. So agility working groups are really a great way to move projects forward.
And I think it has a really unique kind of scenario with AI in particular, because it has to blend that community level, right? Because AI adoption is going to really come down to leveraging and using it. People are very unfamiliar with technology, or are uncomfortable with technology. They will only become comfortable by leveraging it and using it. And I think the agility working groups is a great way of achieving that. And I think it comes down to also maximizing those agents, right, and maximizing how they can be leveraged and utilized. Obviously, inside our own environment and in our own experience, and Margaux, maybe a little bit from some of the Microsoft experience as well. Obviously, prompt engineering is a big part of that, and having good, clear, contextual instruction is very good. You have to treat an agent a little bit like an assistant. You've got to give it very clear, decisive, and direct instructions so that you get the right outcome and right result from that. And sometimes you need to be very thought out, and you have to have really large scale prompts if you're trying to achieve something fairly complex. But you can also be quite open to shorter context of prompt. Prompt engineering comes in 2 different factors, and I think there's probably a whole session just in prompt engineering that we could probably do. But I think also that coaching and effective use is important when we talk about the agility working groups. That coaching, that guidance of how to leverage it, and then consistency, changing that behavior underlying all of that is a key part of that performance and scale. Margaux, just from your perspective, I guess, I know obviously Microsoft being Microsoft, they're fully leveraging Copilot in-house and encouraging all of their staff to use it. Can you maybe give us a tidbit or a personal experience of something that you've done, whether it's in the prompting or that consistency approach?
Yeah, I think, Chris, you're super right in all of that, and the prompting skills are definitely very important, and we could speak about that for a few hours. But above that, I think it's also a new skill for everyone, including for people at Microsoft. So it's really about, I think, my tip would be take a step back on what your day look like and what do you achieve in your day, and where Copilot could help you in your day, just to make sure that instead of going to a meeting recap and checking something, maybe you are already in Copilot chat and you will ping your meeting and ask any question that you would like to have answers about. So it's just about like how it's gonna be in your day to help you gain some time. And the second thing would be also to reflect on maybe what are the top 5 prompts that could definitely help you gain a lot of time, and also because you will realize that there's repetitive tasks that you will do maybe every day or every week or maybe once a month, but that's still something that is repetitive. And how can you kind of build a new process in which you have that prompt that you can save actually in Copilot, so that you just hit a button and you have all what you need, something very specific because you've been following all of the rules for getting a good prompt there, and then you got the answer that you actually absolutely want. And I think that those maybe 5 prompts that you would use the most are definitely the ones that will help you gain a lot of time. And maybe, who knows, maybe you would create an agent for those specific prompts. Up to everyone, but I think that would be my two tips there.
And I want to add something from cubesys' journey, right? So in the first month after a complete adoption of AI in our business, we had 5,500 chats in 30 days, which meant that it was per person 6 different chats that we were creating every day. So that's a way of finding metrics to how the change you've done is evolving.
And I think it does leverage that consistency. I think obviously after that statistic around 6 new chats per person per day shows that consistency over time is improving. I think our latest stats are actually even improving on that original figure.
Yes.
So I think we're now in towards the mid-8s, which is impressive given that the team at cubesys have only had this for a relatively short amount of time. And I think that consistency is a big piece of that. Margaux, you touched on the same thing around, the 5 prompts that I use every week to improve efficiency are a really, really strong point of consistency. Scheduling prompts, right? A personal experience from me around scheduled prompts is I have a prompt every morning that runs at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it says, right, go through yesterday's comments or yesterday's emails and give me a task list for today from just purely yesterday's emails. And it gives me at least a head start of, right, these are the things that I said I was going to do or said I might try and achieve this week, and here's my task list. It's the start of a task list every morning. So scheduled prompts like that are huge in efficiencies.
And I want to bring some attention to our chat as well. So about 10 minutes remaining before we finish off the session, and we've got 2 interesting questions. I'd encourage everyone else as well to drop some questions in the chat, and we'll either get to it straight away or we'll get in touch and answer your questions.
Sorry, Margaux, were you going to say something?
I was again about to just add a precision also to what you just said, Chris, with the prompts that you can schedule, because what we see now in Copilot is that you have, as an end user, you can actually automate things. In the past, that would be different because you would need Power Platform and you would need probably a maker or someone in the IT that would automate something. Now, as a user, just in 2 or 3 clicks, you can automate something and automate a new process for you. And I think this is really powerful. And it's why adoption is also very important, because, if nobody told you that you could do that, how could you know, right? So that's why there's lots of also new features and new things that can be integrated in our routines, and that's why it's a journey and it's a muscle we build, and that's why it's about also change management indeed.
And I think that it does really talk to some of the process side of it, right? Obviously, there's 3 things on this screen that probably deserve 35 to 45 minutes each, right? But I think it does really talk to that process side of that, where and we have covered a lot of this in our previous sessions around the security and data protection and data governance. So I don't think I'll need to talk too much on them, but I think that the ethical AI and the stewardship doesn't change as we adopt at scale, right? We need to be mindful of what our AI is doing, and also how we as a business are leveraging that AI and the data stewardship that is going to occur with that. A lot of people have the concept of the data rich, data poor, and data experts. But Karim, can you just really briefly touch on the differences of those three elements?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the three concepts of data rich, data poor, and data experts. You've got, like data rich organizations are organizations like government institutions, for instance. And data poor means basically the opposite of data rich, meaning there's like there are some barrier elements that are missing, which are the technical means, the autonomy to use them, ability to use certain patterns. Where data experts sits kind of like between the two, and those are like the corporations because they have the technical means, they have the autonomy to use it, to access the data. So when you were talking about ethical AI, if from a data rich perspective, you have all this data, but you don't really, I mean, you don't really have the stewardship, even though like you don't have visibility. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like that communication between corporations and government institutions. When it comes to government institution, you don't really see what's in there, right? It's all kind of a black box. But on a corporation, you can, and this is from internal perspective rather than from an external perspective. Whereas the data poor, you don't have that kind of, you don't know exactly what you're consenting to. You have all these, privacy policies that go on and on and on about how many pages, you consent to give us this information, consent to give, but you don't know what the corporation is doing with it. Like the example of, for example, Facebook with Cambridge Analytica, or Google getting access to Fitbit data when it was acquired, right? We don't know what they're going to do with it. They just acquired data. And the data expert is a member of those two groups. It's like a data rich as part of a corporation and data poor as an individual. But the important part is that data rich organizations, they almost always have a corporate social strategy in place, which covers data ethics. And we could expect that data corporations like Facebook, Amazon, Google, and others, that the corporate social responsibility strategy would be a good balancing power. But many recently highly publicized, affairs, like I've mentioned, the Cambridge Analytica scandal, show that that's not the case, even though they have a CSR. So we have to be mindful of the custodianship and the stewardship of the data that we acquire, whether it's internal from the employees or whether it's from customers.
And I think there's probably a 30-minute conversation that we can go into some of the depths of the, I guess, the ethical standards around some of that, and also the business responsibilities around both of those sides as well. So look, I think it's a unique topic, but I think it's something that we all, as IT professionals and IT leaders, and even business owners and leaders, we need to be mindful of what we're allowing our business to leverage and use and consume, but also we need to be understanding how we then maintain control around that as well, to a degree and to a standard. Not that there is like an AI standard. It's not like an ISO standard that you can just go stamp, yep, we've got that. But it's something that's going to be kind of constantly moving as this AI adoption phase kind of continues to ramp up, as we're seeing inside the market and inside many of our own current customers.
Just
look,
to touch
I want
on
to
that
say
very quickly, as you said about the control of data, the fear about that is what it could cause. What are the implications? And there are like two things. Like we talk about data harm, but have you ever heard of data violence? So data violence is different from data harm. Data harm is basically all, your data is out there and there's a potential of, somebody cracking into your computer because they found the password, etc. Data violence is, your data gets leaked and, you have an disgruntled ex-husband who's going to go after his ex-wife, and that causes the violence. So these are like real cases where like you have to be careful of what kind of information is stored and how you get it and how it is easily identifiable. Or best example would be Strava, when at the beginning you could actually see people's running paths And I can't believe which country it was where you had spies who actually found out where a secret military base was. You can find that, Google it and find it, because they didn't put enough guardrails. And so the data was not breached. It was just out there. So we have to be careful about the data harm aspect and the data violence aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an intriguing topic. I think there's plenty of conversation that can keep going with that. And look, I'm going to wrap us up. I want to say thank you both, Karim and Margaux, for giving up your time today and for being a part of today's discussion. I think there's still a lot of challenges we have to go through when we look at adopting AI at scale. But I think that there's plenty of people out there. For those that customers are out there that are looking at adopting AI at scale, come and talk to a partner that's got the experience in doing it. Talk to a partner that is going to help you understand the gaps and the potential risks that you might be facing, as well as leveraging people in the community around what is the right ethical AI and stewardship that you need to be looking at, right, for your own business as well.
Thank you so much for having us.
Joining us, yes, and for your thoughtful questions and engagement to all our audience as well. Look, it's clear that scaling Copilot and embracing AI is as much about empowering people as it is about adopting new technology. Thank you again to Karim, Margaux, and Chris to having such a good discussion and some real-world insights. I've got an offer for all of our customers that joined today to have a 30-minute discussion with us, talking about your challenges and your AI adoption strategy, or a Copilot assessment chat as well. Yeah, let's continue to focus on how AI can enhance our work, support our teams, and drive meaningful outcomes for our organizations. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.